Good afternoon, teacher and classmate. Today, our team, consisting of Jessica, Max, and Ricardo, will present our final work for this course. We will be discussing participatory democracy and analyzing political, economic, and social factors in Mexico, Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Spain. Um, participatory democracy is a political system which system activity participate in public in decision making, not with by voting in election, but also through mechanisms such as referendum, public consultation, and citizen. Uh, an elite representative democracy where elected official make most decision participatory democracy encourage people to become directly involved in such that case the communities and country. Its main objective is to strengthen democracy by increasing transparency and accountability. Vamos a los bloques, que sería en el bloque izquierdo tenemos its economy is based on manufacturing, service, trade, tourism, agriculture, and wheel production. Mexico just three agreements with many countries, including the Lunaut State Mexico Canada Agreement. Economic inequality and regional difference continue to influence political party participation and public policy. Political factors. Mexico is a federal presidentialist republic. Is the branching of government, execute president, legislative, Congress, judicial, Supreme Court, and other courts. Elections are organized by the National Electoral Institute. The country's is a multi-party system and allow different political parties to complete election. Social factors. Mexico's population of proximity 130 million people. In Spanish, are idol final language practice alongside script A recounts. Social issues include equality, poverty, public security, education, and access to jails. Citizens is crisis participate in public. Vamos a la siguiente, Max. Who election earlier? Election year every state is for the president. Member of Congress are elected every 6 and 6 years, depending on the position. Governors, mayors, and local judges are elected according to a state electoral calendar. Voting is secret, direct, and free. Citizen polling stations supervised by the National Electoral Institute. Political parties. There are many political parties are there. Currently, Mexico has seven national political parties. Pardon, six national political. Morena, National Action Party, Institutional Revolutionary Party, Green Ecology Party of Mexico, Labor Party y Citizen Movement. En el bloque 3, the political party receive public funding list. Political party receives public funding from the federal government to finance election campaigns, support the regular activities, promote political education and citizen participation. They may also review private education, but is regulated by electoral law. Is voting mandatory now? Voting in Mexico and voluntary was is considered a civic responsibility. Every Mexican citizen, LG, or older with about voter identity election card. Yes, citizen participation. Your system participate in election. Citizens participate by voting for candidates and political parties, serving a voluntary polling station officials, observing election and as accredited electoral observers, participating in public consultation and referendums. The only political parties or civic organization monitoring government action and promote citizen in initiatives.
Hello, my name is Jessica Martinez, and today I'm going to talk about Costa Rica. For general and the country overview, first of all, we're going to see the factors. There is three factors: economic, political, and social. So for economics, it's the main economic sectors are tourism, agriculture, technology, and medical device manufacturing. So the country has a high development index compared to most countries in the region. And for political factors, we have that Costa Rica is a democratic republic with a long tradition of political stability. It was abolished its army in 1948 and invests more in education and healthcare. So it has independent institutions that oversee elections and protect democracy. And for the social factor, the country has high literacy and education levels, so the citizens generally have confidence in democratic institutions. Civil society organizations play an active role in public decisions making. When we talk about elections and political parties, we need to ask this question: how are elections held? The presidential and legislative elections are held every 4 years, and citizens directly elect the president, the vice presidents, and members of the legislative assembly. Elections are organized by the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, an independent institution that guarantee free and fair elections. How many political parties are there? In Costa Rica has a multi-party system, so several political parties compete in national elections, although only a few win significant representation in the legislative assembly. So do political parties receive public funding? The answer is yes. Political parties receive public funding known as the state contribution of political debt. After elections, if they meet the legal requirements and receive a minimum percent of the vote. Voting is mandatory. Voting is non-mandatory, so voting is voluntary in Costa Rica, and the citizens participate in elections when the citizens vote in presidential and legislative elections. So they can join political parties and tell public debates, volunteering campaigns, and monitor elections. The civil society organizations encourage both education and democratic participation. So the voter turns generally high compared to many other countries in the region.
Hi, I'm Maximiliano Rosales, and I'm gonna talk about Uruguay economic, political, and social factors and other topics. But first, the economic factor of Uruguay is that Uruguay is classified as a high-income economy driven primarily by agricultural exports, manufacturing, and software services. It maintains the lowest level of income inequality, Gini coefficient, and one of the lowest poverty rates in Latin America. The political factor in Uruguay is that Uruguay consistently achieves elite rankings globally. According to the PDM Democracy Report 2026, Uruguay's Liberal Democracy Index is ranked number 1 in South America and sits within the global top tier, displaying robust legislative constraints on the executive branch. The social factor is that the country exhibits robust social cohesion, high institutional trust, and a comprehensive state welfare system. Public infrastructure is highly developed, ensuring universal access to basic water, electricity, and sanitation. Now I'm going to talk about how elections are held in Uruguay. The general elections are held every 5 years to elect the president by vice president, 30 senators, and 99 members of the House of Representatives. The process begins with simultaneous mandatory party primaries to select a single presidential candidate per party. The general election utilizes a double simultaneous vote system. If no presidential candidate obtains an absolute majority, 50% plus one vote. In the first round, a mandatory runoff election ballotage takes place between the top two candidates. Number of political parties. Uruguay operates under a moderate multi-party system that is functionally structured around major political blocs and coalitions, while around 11 parties regularly registered to participate. Power is historically concentrated within three primary forces: the left-wing coalition Frente Amplio, the center-right Partido Nacional, and the traditional center-right Partido Colorado, alongside a smaller representation from parties like Cabildo Abierto and Partido Independiente. Public funding for political parties, or what provides substantial direct public funding to political parties. The state distributes post-electoral subventions calculated proportionally based on the number of valid votes obtained in the regional elections to help cover campaign costs. Private contributions are permitted but strictly regulated, featuring a ban of donation from foreign governments, anonymous entities above a set threshold, and companies holding public works contracts. Is voting mandatory? Yes, voting is compulsory for all eligible citizens aged 18 and older. Citizens who fail to vote without a valid legally recognized justification, such as illness or being outside the country, are subject to administrative fines and restrictions on certain public sector procedures. Citizen participation in election. Citizen participation is exceptionally high, with voter turnout routinely exceeding 85 to 19 in general elections due to the compulsory framework and a strong civic culture. Additionally, institutionally the mechanisms of direct democracy, such as popular referendums and constitutional plebiscites, are frequently utilized by citizens to challenge or approve legislation. Now I'm gonna to talk about Spain. The economic factor in Spain is that it's an advanced economy and a member of the European Union and the Eurozone. Its economy is heavily supported by the services sector, tourism, manufacturing, and industrialized agriculture. Through it structurally experiences higher unemployment and youth unemployment rates than the EU average. The political factor in Spain is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of government. It is characterized by a highly decentralized territorial structure divided into 16 autonomous communities, which generates complex institutional dynamics between central authorities and regional nationalist movements. The nation has a highly progressive legal framework and well-established public healthcare and education system. Social challenges include a rapidly aging demographic profile, low birth rates, and regional economic disparities. How the elections are held. General elections are held at least every 4 years to choose the Cortes Generales, consisting of the Congress of Deputies, 350 seats, and the Senate. Members of the lower house, Congress, are elected using a closely proportional representation system across multi-member provincial constituencies, utilizing the D'Hondt method. Following the election, the king nominates a candidate for prime minister, who must then successfully secured an investiture vote, an absolute majority or a simple majority in a secondary vote in the Congress of Deputies. The number of political parties. Spain features a fragmented multi-party system. The traditional two-party dynamic dominates by the center-left Partido Socialista Obrero Español, PSOE, and the center-right Partido Popular shift in the mid-2015 cycle to include prominent national parties like Vox, right to far right, and Sumar or Podemos, left to far left. It also incorporates influential regional and nationalist parties from Catalonia and the Basque Country that frequently hold the balance of power. Following the most recent election, the Congress of Deputies features 11 different parties and coalitions. Public funding for political parties. Political parties in Spain rely primarily on direct public funding. Financing, the state provides regular subsidies for ordinary operational maintenance as well as specific allocation for electoral campaign expenses. These public resources are distributed proportionally based on the number of parliamentary seats and valid votes won in the previous election. Public funding can be legally withheld if a party includes individuals convicted of serious public administration offenses or terrorism on its list. Is voting mandatory in Spain? No, voting is entirely voluntary in Spain. There are no legal or civil penalties for citizens who choose not to cast a ballot. Citizen participation in election. Despite being a voluntary system, voter turnout remains strongly robust, typically fluctuating between 65 and 75 for general election, depending on political mobilization and polarization. Civic engagement is also maintained through regional and municipal election, alongside constitutional avenues like the Iniciativa Legislativa Popular, Popular Legislative Initiative, and that's all for Spain. Now is a chart of all the information we talked about a minute ago. It's the same but in resume, in a comparative chart. And the conclusion of all of this is this comparative study highlights the diverse institutional frameworks, electoral mechanisms, and socio-economic landscape that shape participatory democracy across 4 distinct nations and regions: Mexico, Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Spain. By examining the structural dynamics of each country, it becomes evident that while the foundational principles of democracy remain universally centered on citizen representation and civic involvement, the practical execution and subsequent health of this democratic system differs substantially based on domestic institutional maturity and historical path dependencies. A crucial differentiator identified among the analyzed political system is the constitutional status of voting, consistent with voluntary voting frameworks such as Mexico, Costa Rica, and Spain. Voter turnout remains subject to shifting waves of public mobilization, institutional confidence, and political polarization. Conversely, Uruguay demonstrates the profound impact of a compulsory voting system, combined with a historically deep-rooted civic culture, consistently registering extraordinary turnout rates exceeding 85 to 90% and institutionalizing public engagement as a core societal norm. Furthermore, the role of public financing emerged as a vital cornerstone for ensuring equity, transparency, and architectural stability across all 4 multi-party systems. In Mexico, Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Spain, direct public funding is utilized as a strategic mechanism to mitigate the distorting influence of private wealth and electoral outcomes. This collective reliance on regulated subventions safeguards pluralism, allowing diverse political coalitions ranging from traditional forces to emergent platforms to compete on an equitable playing field. And that's all for me and my teammates. And my team, the reference are this, and it's all. Thank you for your attention.